last April, it was a couple weeks after the Masters, that the head of programming of Golf Channel, Tom Knapp, called me, who I have always had, this great personal and professional relationship with. And he said to me, and it seems comical that he would say it the way that he said it. He said, "What would you think about Five Clubs being kind of Golf Channel's morning show in 2025? And I said, "What do you think I would think?"
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special episode of the Whole Story Podcast. Robby here. Excited to introduce you to today's guest, who really does not need an introduction. When you listen to it on podcast form, you'll recognize the voice. If you do watch it on our YouTube channel, you will see a familiar face. We have Gary Williams joining us today. No, not the legendary basketball coach, the legendary golf broadcaster. It was great to sit down with him. One comment he made, and we talk about it all the time, golf is people, but he said golf is the ultimate connector. And it's so true. The fact that he joined us on the Whole Story to talk about his story in golf, all the fun things he's doing with Five Clubs. It was great because golf has brought us together. So excited for you guys to hear this episode, to hear a little more of his story and everything he has going on. Many thanks to our friends at Summit Golf Brands, Bedrati, Zero Restriction, Fairway and Green. They have a lot of great things going on. Check out each of their websites. See the different styles they have out right now. I know they're gearing up for a fall season that's going to be really, really good. They're kind enough to give you, our listeners, 20% off by using BestBall20 at any of their websites. So make sure you take advantage of that. Also want to give thanks to Western Birch, friends of the program. We scatter their golf tees all over the place. You can get your own custom golf tees. Pick out what you want inside the cup of the tee, whatever colors you want. Visit westernbirch.com. Again, if you use Best Ball in the promo field or in the shipping cart field, you can get a free gift with your order. So many thanks to Lewis and the team at Western Birch. Excited about this episode. I think you guys are going to like it. Go check out Five Clubs. A lot of great things that they have going on. You can see them on the Golf Channel. Listen to their podcast. And they have some more fun things in store. Y'all enjoy this episode of The Whole Story. All right, well, Gary Williams, thank you for joining us on The Whole Story Podcast. This is an honor to get to chat with one of the legends in the golf media game.
Listen, I'm humbled, honored. I'm looking forward to this. I will, I'm sure just like you want to talk golf, you want to talk fellowship, all the things that we get out of this game. I love doing it. I appreciate the ask and the invite, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I gotta wonder though, how often are you the one being interviewed? Because you are one of the master interviewers in not only the golf but just the sports world. So how often are you the one on the other side of the question?
Well, first of all, that's very kind. I love to get to do what I get to do. Probably, maybe a little bit more than you would think. Invitations like this come on occasion. So I feel like I probably have the opportunity to answer questions probably 2 to 3 times a month, as opposed to me asking them 2 to 3 times a day. But like I said, I love having conversations like this. I love finding out about people's paths and journeys in the game, just like mine. So yeah, 2-3 times a month, which is great.
Yeah, well, that's what this podcast is all about. We love meeting people that are doing incredible things in the game, and I mean, kind of like you've done forever. And we want to hear their story and kind of share more about what they're doing. But I guess let's start there. And people can go on Five Clubs and check out your kind of bio. But give us your story. When did you get involved in the game of golf?
My baptism into the game, I was 6 years old, and I was born in Hickory, North Carolina. My father was in the paper industry, and he started as a sales trainee, and Hickory, North Carolina is where they put him. And we lived there until I was about 2 years old, and then we moved to Greensboro, North Carolina, where I lived until I was almost 7. And when we were living in Greensboro, my dad was he was an athlete. He was a college baseball player. He was a pitcher at the University of Florida, but he was also, people were his oxygen. And so my father had countless friends, and a gentleman that he befriended was a guy named Howard Coble, who wound up becoming a long-standing uh, congressman from that area. This was after we had left, but Howard had a house in Boone, North Carolina, and we would use it on occasion. And so we went to the Boone Golf Club when I was 6 years old. That's where I hit my first golf ball. And I don't want to say that image and that moment was indelible. I just know that I did it. I liked it. It was my dad's clubs. I was hitting McGregor irons that were full-length men's clubs with leather grips. Hitting the golf balls wasn't like something that totally got to me. What got to me was that hour, I got my dad for that hour. And subsequently, in all the days and moments and trips that I had with him into my 40s, I got him for those hours. So my love for golf was rooted in that it gave me undivided time and uninterrupted time with my dad. And so while I was trying, doing, loving everything else, like skiing and baseball and basketball, never played organized football, too small. I loved all those things, but golf gave me him. And that's why my love for golf really started.
Yeah, and I think I saw on your site kind of your favorite memory or something was 36 at Muirfield, I think, with your dad.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny you mentioned that. We were doing our Open Championship preview show today. Myself, Johnson Wagner, Brendan DeYoung, and Taylor Zarzer in our 5 Club studio. And I asked the three of them, and it's hard to do this if you've had a trip to the British Isles to play golf. A top 3 is really a challenge, but I said, guys, we don't have time to do 10. We're doing 3. Muirfield is number 1 for me. And it gets kind of reaffirmed every time I go there. And I was lucky enough to go back there last fall with 3 very dear college friends, and I wrote about it. I'd written about it before. Yeah, Muirfield was the most and remains the most special day I've ever had. That was in September of 1995 that I experienced it for the first time with my dad. Playing your own ball in the morning, going in there, having the gluttonous lunch, the kind of lunch where you're not thinking I'm going to play more golf holes. You're thinking, oh my God, a bed and a blanket and a pillow after all this food. And back in the day, a pint or 12 seemed like the greatest thing ever, and it was. And then going back out though, an alternate shot and playing in 2.5 hours, and then that grand room looking out over the Firth of Forth and across that landscape. I left there that day and I said, it can't get better than this. And I've been lucky to have a lot of wonderful, wonderful, wonderful days, but nothing is better than that day.
Yeah, that sounds like it's hard to beat. We just had a recent trip and got to play at St. Andrews,
Oh,
and that's one of the few times, or really the only time I've been over and gotten to play there. We did have the unique opportunity to play it in reverse, so that was quite fun. My friend Jonathan, who normally is co-hosting with me, he got drawn in the ballot system, so we got to go experience that, and it was incredible.
how was it in reverse? What
Well,
was that like?
yes, I mean that was the first time that we played it. I had never played the old course, period. So your first time standing on the first tee box, you're supposed to look at the Swilken Bridge and go towards the 17th green. So that was a little intimidating, regardless of where you're trying to aim. So it was unique. It was. The caddies were still trying to figure it out a little bit. Like, I think this is the good line to go on. But then we got to turn around and play it the regular routing, traditional routing now, and the next day. So that was an incredible experience itself. But I guess the uniqueness of playing it in reverse was quite fun. So
I want to do that. and have heard you're now the second or third person that I've spoken with who's had that experience. Um, and again, navigating it in the regular order is kind of like a Rubik's cube anyway. I can't imagine what it would be like in reverse.
Yeah, we one of the guys that we got to play with, we were paired up and now have become good friends with two guys from Indiana. And they brought up the question, is the first hole when you play it in reverse maybe the best hole in golf because you're on the first tee of St. Andrews, you're crossing Swilken Bridge on 18 and you're playing into the road hole. So like you're combining three of the best holes in the world into one. And so, I don't know.
Well, as you say that, I'm thinking about how damn challenging your approach to that green from the rear with the road bunker on the right and not on the left, and the way that green is perched. Like, look, it's hard enough to play it, but at least you have a lot of green to kind of sling it in there. And oh my God, now you've really got my mind racing. Yeah,
Yeah, you need to get over there and
yes.
make it happen. But I guess how then, or what was your transition into the golf media space? I know you were one of the original guys on Morning Drive and a part of the Golf Channel, and that's where so many people recognize your face, your voice, and just the great interviews and commentary you've done in this game. How did that happen? Where did you get your start into the golf media space?
Yeah, so it's interesting that my introduction to the golf media space was really where my broadcasting career began, and it was very modest. I had been a club professional for 5 years and made the decision to get out of it just because um, I was, I felt like I had seen not what I wanted to see, but felt like I had experienced various aspects of it to where I could make a fair decision as to whether I wanted to make the decision that that was going to be my career path. And I made the decision that it wasn't going to be my path. And so I left Seminole Golf Club after 2 seasons, 5 years into it, Class A member of the PGA of America. On the doorstep, I had already actually interviewed for one head job and was getting ready to interview for another one that was very daunting to me. And I thought, my God, if I get this job, like, not like I'm really stuck, but I'm more stuck as opposed to just being an assistant professional. And it's not as turbulent as if someone who's just been hired to be a head golf professional. Anyway, when I got out of it, I left South Florida. I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I got connected with a gentleman, not on purpose. This was merely accidental, who was a guy who had moved here from Boston and was running a cluster of CBS owned radio stations and was reformatting from a local standpoint with live and local, with all the day parts. Everything at that point when he had gotten here was in syndication except for one day part. And he said, we need some weekend programming. I know you just told me you did some radio in college and now you've been in the golf business. How about doing a golf show on the weekends? And I'm like, how frivolous and why not? And so I started doing that. And it was about 8 months into that where I'm doing this radio show on the weekends. And I am at the time working for MCI WorldCom.
Oh,
And for
yeah.
people, old enough to go, okay, I remember MCI. Maybe WorldCom kind of rings a bell anyway. So I'm literally, I'm selling like long distance. And this same gentleman said, we are not happy with our daytime morning host. We want you to become our new morning host, Monday through Friday, all sports formatted radio show. We're going to give you a 3-year contract and we want to give you time to make this work. That was in June of 1999. So I took it and then subsequently started doing television a couple years after that, in addition to it, to kind of augment what I was already doing. And then the Golf Channel thing was something that I loved Golf Channel. Look, I was a golf professional when it was born in 1995, and I'm thinking to myself, this is not going to last. Like what in? But for as long as it lasts, I'll watch. And then I, got to know a few people who worked there. Not well. Steve Sands being one of them. Who is still a primary face and voice at Golf Channel, and he said, we're gonna do a morning show at some point. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I had then left my local radio show to go work for Sirius XM in New York City. Was also doing some television in New York City, and found out that the interviewing, auditioning for this now new morning show was happening. And my agent at the time said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yes, I'm interested." And I flew to Orlando, spent a half a day there, and over the course of the next 3 weeks, met with different people, was offered the job in the late fall of 2010. And we launched Morning Drive January 3rd, 2011. And it was not only the most important decision I made in my career, it was the best decision I made in my career, because I still love all sports. I really do. Now, when I went to Golf Channel, I really had to narrow my focus. Like I stopped watching nearly as much of all the other stuff and really immersed myself in the game of golf. But it was my first love, and it was my most, kind of dedicated, passionate love. And there have been lots of people who've said this, and I'm not saying this in a boastful way. I'm saying it merely to point out that it's true. From elite players to my dearest friends in life, they're like, you're the only one who's actually doing what he always wanted to do. And it's true.
That's a great story for a lot of people that finally or maybe never get to do what they want to do, but you're actually living that out. I had a 20 plus year career in sales, tech sales, and things like that, and now trying to grow best ball, this storytelling business, and I am having the most fun, probably like you get to do all the time. And for me, like meeting people like yourself, it's just there's been so many things that have come about and incredible people that I've gotten to meet. One experience that I've gotten to have, and you did it recently, was something you went to Landman. You did all these courses in Nebraska. And so getting to experience different courses, places, I mean, my friend Jonathan said he would have never applied for the old course reverse ballot if we weren't doing something like this. So the doors that open because of this fun game has been incredible. So I guess one of the things you get to do now, you've started 5 clubs, and you're doing these series where you get to travel and show off these courses, and you did get to visit Landman. Real brief, give your thoughts on that. It's one of my favorite courses in the world. So
I think Landman is truly, when you see, ambition, creativity, and this unwavering belief like merge. When those things happen, it's extraordinary what can come of it. And that's what Landman is. I mean, it is a documentary, and it's already been made into a documentary. My experience at Landman was truly, kind of taken to another level, because I got to play with Will Anderson, who is he's the driving force of it, and he's the one who took Rob and Tad up top when they were looking at all these other properties and pieces of land kind of down low, and they finally went up top and took a look at it, and what they saw was something amazing, as you've experienced. But what they also saw was a really daunting task of building holes that would hold up, not like hold up over time. I mean, hold up in construction and not get washed away. And Will shared a story about Tom Doak saying, there ain't no way this hole's there's no way this 13th hole, you can't build this hole. And they experienced some real challenges in that, where they lost a lot of turf because of, it literally washing out during torrential rains in the build. Landman is so hilariously fun, Um, and again, it is this. I can't imagine having an imagination like those guys have. I don't know that I would function. I would probably be disoriented most of the day if I thought and saw the way that they think and see. I loved it. And it was the punctuation on a return to a state that I've become, incredibly fond of, and that is Nebraska. And journeying across that state as I've done now on what is now a handful of occasions, from flying into North Platte and entering the Sandhills and going to Mullen, and now adding this other incredible place in Caprock Ranch, which is 65 miles north of Sandhills Golf Club on Highway 97. And I could argue that that stretch of road is the greatest stretch of road in the world, truly, because all you see is golf holes that are not golf holes. But it makes you believe that there could be endless golf holes. So yes, Landman's amazing. All the little touches, the shop and the food truck and the flags and the people and the fact that the staff, they're all local, and the fact that it is not resuscitated. That wouldn't be fair to Homer. Homer was fine. And Homer's slogan is great, little but lively, which is awesome. But the fact that people from all over the country and the world are going to these local eateries in Homer and having burgers and playing golf and going to the pumpkin pantry and getting bags of chips. Like I'm telling you, got online before we even got there. And the guy in front of me online has golf shoes on and a visor. And I'm like, I'm in Homer, Nebraska. 5 years ago, guy in visor is not in front of me at the pumpkin pantry in Homer, Nebraska.
Yeah, they've built just an incredible destination place, and I think, like you highlighted, the tee times open up and they are gone immediately. So we could talk forever about Landman and about Nebraska golf. I do need to get over to the Sandhills and see Caprock Ranch. Was it Wild Horse and all these other places?
Yes.
There's so many great spots, and I want to get over there and see. But I do want to get back to Five Clubs. Like, where did the idea for that come about? How did you? I know you worked with a couple partners in creating this thing, but tell us the genesis of that.
Yeah, so when I left Golf Channel, I wasn't sure what it is that was going to be the next chapter. And so you mentioned these partners, Steve Hall, who created a sports marketing agency, Signature Sports Group, 28 years ago. They've done everything in every sport except golf. They had never dipped their toe in the water. And through the years, we would have lots of conversations about what would be an entry point and what would make sense. And, they're experts in ideation and brand activation and doing things around brands that connect sports to those brands. Like, for instance, one of their biggest clients, and I say them, it's us now. I'm not involved in that part of the business, is with college football. But it was always like, where's golf for us? And so one of the things that I would impart upon Steve Hall and James McCoy is, like, digital is coming and digital is going to be viable, and digital is a great landscape and platform for golf and golf discussion. So when I joined Signature Sports Group, we created Five Clubs as not only a digital media platform, but also with the idea that the expertise and the core competencies that the company has can be utilized to do, whether it's brand activation or special events and event management. And we're doing some of that on a modest level. And believe me, events is a big part of what we want to do going forward. But as far as the media platform, one of the things that we all agreed upon from the beginning was there are lots of podcasts, and there are lots of good podcasts. And that's the beauty of it, is that you and I have choices, and we can make the choices to what we want to watch and listen to, or do both, or do one, or watch it and listen, or just listen. But I said, whatever it is that is going to be the primary source of consumption, we're not doing this halfway. So we decided that we would make this the look of a television show, not with this idea that I promise, guys, promise TV's going to come a calling. That's not why. It was just let's do it right in our minds. And lo and behold, Golf Channel came calling, and it was a year ago. Last April, it was a couple weeks after the Masters, that the head of programming of Golf Channel, Tom Knapp, called me, who I have always had, this great personal and professional relationship with. And he said to me, and it seems comical that he would say it the way that he said it. He said, "What would you think about Five Clubs being kind of Golf Channel's morning show in 2025?" And I said, "What do you think I would think? Like, what, are you kidding? Like, after I am revived, after I pass out or faint from the idea that I'm going to get an opportunity to do what I love again on that network." So Five Clubs, which began as a podcast platform, which was primarily me doing, long form conversations, but also with contributions from Gil Hanse and Jay Billis and Emma Carpenter and Johnson Wagner and Brendan DeYoung. And we've added others now that we have the platform we have. And they do it in ways that are modest in total, but impactful in the fact that, look, Gabby Herzig's going to be a star. She already is. She's a great writer for The Athletic. Jaime Diaz is a legendary writer and historian. Taylor Zarzer is one of the most reliable voices when it comes to the game of golf. So we've added those folks, and more are coming. We want a community of voices that represent as many viewpoints about the game of golf and the industry of golf as we can have. So that is what Five Clubs is. And if anybody's wondering, okay, well, what does that mean? The name is an homage to the original five clubs that made up the construct of the United States Golf Association in 1894, which is Newport Country Club, the Country Club at Brookline, Shinnecock, Chicago Golf Club, and St. Andrews, which is on the Hudson River. And so it was not like, well, you were going to be like them at some point. It's not that. They had no idea what they're going to be. But they did have the ambition to contribute to the game of golf and hopefully grow. And one other aspect of why we named it what we named it, we didn't want our name to be shortened. Most things are acronymed. People like shorten everything now, and I get it. You can't shorten Five Clubs. It's what it is. So that's what it is.
Yep. You guys are building something great, and it's funny you talk about the different voices that you've added on, and that's what we've seen as we try to build Best Ball. There's so many stories in golf, whether it's somebody picked it up for the first time, went to a driving range at age 6, to professionals just dominating and being very, very talented in what they do. But for us, the best part are the people, right? Everybody is kind of, golf is the great equalizer, because it's a hard game, and it's fun that we get to meet people again like yourself and others that we've been blessed to meet and interview and talk with, and just hear and share their stories. And I think from someone that came from outside the industry, I don't know if we're in the industry yet or not, but it's inspiring to see what you guys build and maybe have aspirations, hopefully one day, to do something similar. So y'all are.
That's. Look, I think that anything that inspires you that's the essence of what life should be about, is that whether it's an idea or whether it's an experience, or whether it's people that inspire you to either do what you're already doing or like for you, like I'm an enormous admirer of people who not necessarily take chances, but do something different. And I say this to young people. I say this to everybody who's maybe embarking on a new chapter. One of my favorite books is a book by David Epstein, and it's titled Range, Range. David also wrote one of, if not the most unvarnished view on athletic performance that's ever been written. It's called The Sports Gene. And this book, titled Range, the subtitle is How Generalists Thrive in a Specialized World. And the world is very specialized now. But the point of the book is that it takes guts to try something different. It takes guts to quit. And that more people should get beyond whatever boundaries they've created for themselves. Not necessarily from a personal standpoint, as far as like your relationships, but in terms of the things you like, the things that you try, your vocation, where you live. And I understand why people grow up and maybe never leave the town they grew up in. But he advocates, like, why don't people move somewhere else like every 10 years? The world is an amazing place. And the only way you're going to know it is if you see it. And so for you to be inspired to do this only reaffirms what we're trying to do, that you know what, take a chance, and that and be motivated and be stimulated by what it is that you're doing. And I love it. I love the fact that you're doing this. And you mentioned about it being golf being the ultimate equalizer. It is. It's also the ultimate connector, because you and I don't have this conversation if golf it doesn't connect us. And most of, if not the lion's share of the relationships that I have in my life are either struck through the game of golf or reinforced through the game of golf or immeasurably nourished and fortified through the game of golf. I mean, they just are.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We've met and become really good friends with some incredible people, and it starts because we all like chasing around a little white ball. So it's been a lot of fun. So what's kind of next? You mentioned maybe some events, things like that for Five Clubs. Anything on the horizon that people can get excited about, or maybe you can even talk about?
Yeah, I would say a couple things, and it's not to be cloak and dagger. We're close on a couple of things that will change kind of our scope as far as how often and for how long you can see us on Golf Channel. We're really excited about what we think is going to be next in that department. One of the things that we were not thinking about at the beginning of the year, but has become something that not only do we like, but there's a real audience for this, is doing road shows. And so we had not done one, and we were asked to do one. It was right before the Masters that we went down, and James Hardy is a new sponsor of the event Boca Raton. It's a PGA Tour Champions event that ties in the Pro Football Hall of Fame with the Champions Tour players. That was our first road show, and from that, we have then gone to the U.S. Open at Oakmont, 2 days at the Memorial Tournament with Jack, the Arnold Palmer Cup, and we've got some others on the horizon, and that's going to be a big part of 2026. And it's not just going to be going to PGA Tour events. We want people to hear from the people who play, who knows, hypothetically, in the U.S. Senior Amateur or a four-ball or some other charitable events like we're going to do our show from Mackenzie Hughes's event. He's a Charlotte resident. This will be the day after the Tour Championship. He's going to have a handful of guys who are coming right from Eastlake who are going to be there. So we're going to do the show from his event. We're going to do the show, which is, it's going to be a powerful day for a lot of reasons, but Grayson Murray's Foundation on October 6th, we'll be in Raleigh to do our show live with a lot of his peer group that are left behind after his passing. And so there are going to be a lot of tour players at that. And so that is another aspect of where Five Clubs is going. But then the other thing about events is that we are going to create some special events in 2026 that are going to be public offerings that we want We want to engage the audience and take them to special places and not make it to where it's 150 guys. No, it's going to be more, where it's going to feel intimate, and you're going to feel like I had an opportunity to meet some people and really have conversations. And we're working on really trying to custom curate these events in a way and at places that you'll be like, I want to go there. So that's coming as well in the new year.
That's exciting. Well, I guess that means people really have to follow what Five Clubs is doing, both
Yes,
website, social media, watch the show, all the above, listen to the podcast, all the above to make sure that they are catching the breaking news when it happens.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's, and the last thing, and it's a much more minor thing, but we've waited and waited and waited on the whole idea of having a shop, but we want to do this in a way that feels like it's like we've taken the time to really identify how we want to, present apparel, not just stuff that you would wear on the golf course, but stuff you would wear off the golf course that are neat, that have kind of stories to them. And we're working on that through some special artwork. So that's coming as well.
Yeah, you speaking of special artwork, I saw my buddy Dave Basin. You've
He's the
got
best.
some of his stuff hanging up. That's really cool.
Dave is one of the sweetest people. I reached out to him when I knew that the live TV show is happening. I said, Dave, I don't know what I want you to do, but here's what I want you to do, something. And it was his idea to create this piece that is the primary thing you see when the camera's on my single shot over my shoulder, is this beautiful piece of art that is the 5 clubs, those 5 logos of those majestic bellwether clubs in America, and with our logo centered around right in the center with those 5 flags around and then we've got another piece of his from the Ohoopee Match Club, depending on what camera angle is being shot. We also had Dave in the studio the Monday of the PGA Championship. He was in the corner of the studio
Doing his stuff.
doing his stuff the whole time. He was working on a piece on the 17th hole at Quail Hollow, and that artwork that I mentioned, he'll be involved in that coming in 26.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. Who was your first interview? Do you remember who that was?
The first interview, the first interview that we did when 5 Clubs was created was Phil Mickelson.
Okay.
Okay. And then the first interview that we did when we launched on Golf Channel was Nelly Corda. Phil was my first ask. I remember going up to him. This was in the summer of 2021 at Caves Valley, where the BMW Championship is returning to this year. I said, look, man, I'm launching this thing. I'd be really interested for you being the first guest. And he said, I'll do it. And he was we shot that show, and he was in a room at Whistling Straits. That was kind of a recon mission before that Ryder Cup, and he was one of the vice captains. So Phil was first when 5 Clubs was created, and then Nelly was first, and she was absolutely... I told her agent, Chris Mulhop, when the show was greenlit, I reached out to him immediately and I said, I want Nelly to be the first guest. And she was.
That's incredible. Well, I tell people, we're no golf swing experts or anything, but I tell people all the time, if you want to learn how to hit a golf ball or what swing should look like, watch Nelly. She's incredible to watch.
Totally. Yeah, aesthetically, technically, there are a lot of people in the world of golf, experts, who think that she has got. It's almost like a Mickey Wright kind of phenomenon. A lot of people, Hogan included, thought Mickey Wright had the best golf swing in the world during that period and beyond. And a lot of people think that of Nelly as well. But it was great because it was January 6th, was the day we launched 5 Clubs on Golf Channel. And it was so perfect because she was kind of leaning back and she had this cup of coffee that was set between obviously herself and the camera, but it was a big cup. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what we want this show to be. kick back, having a conversation about the golf, having a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And we didn't tell her like, hey, can you do this? Can you? Nope. She just presented herself in a way. It's like that's the embodiment of what we want to be.
Yeah. No, it's fun. Who do you want to interview next? Like, is there somebody that's kind of been like your white whale? I mean, you've interviewed everybody, the who's who of golf. Is there somebody that you haven't interviewed that you want to?
Um, to be honest with you, there's I can't think of somebody I haven't. Now there are plenty of people with respect to, our show. We're a little over 6 months into Five Clubs. There's tons of people, but to have another conversation, there's a handful. Look, this was separate, so it wasn't 4 or 5 clubs. I've done a handful of things with Rory through the years. I would like to, before this year ends, I would like to devote an entire program to just talking with him about, and I've got an idea of how to do this and where to do this, and it would not be in the studio. He is the number one target because I want to talk to him about not just winning the Masters. He's 36 years old. One of the first things that I ever did at Golf Channel was appeal to him and his representatives after the Masters in 2011. And I said to them, look, he's 21 years old. I'd love to spend a half a day with him and just kind of get to know him a little bit and shoot this thing. And they said, well, how do you want to do this? And I said, well, I'd like to caddy for him in the Pro-Am at the Memorial, and we'll have cameras with us and we'll capture all that, and then we'll sit down and we'll talk. And I'm not saying things were more achievable back then, but it wasn't that hard to get that accomplished. And he won the US Open less than 10 days later. And in the time since then, I've had a handful of occasions to have pretty, lengthy conversations with him. It's been a long journey for him in the game of golf. And so he's number one. Scheffler is right there because I think Scotty Scheffler, people are not paying attention, I think, closely enough to how interesting he is when he does share. I thought his post PGA Championship press conference was sensational in how much he shared about ambition and his pursuit and focus and patience. He's absolutely right up there. I also, I was lucky enough. I was the last person for television to interview together Palmer, Player, Nicklaus, and Trevino. And I would love to get the three living members together again, because I find them when they're together even more interesting because they respond to each other. It's like, what did you just say? Like, how, or what are you, crazy? Like, I would ask one question and 40 minutes later I'd redirect because they would have been playing off of each other. So Player, Trevino, and Nicklaus, look, that quartet that I sat with in October of 2015 at the Greenbrier, I will never, ever experience anything like that again, but it doesn't mean I can't experience things equally as satisfying and humbling and enjoyable. So yeah, Player, Trevino, Nicklaus that'd be a nice trio.
Well, if any of them are listening to this podcast right now, one, I can't believe you're listening, but two, give Gary a call. He's got an idea for you. So, what advice, and we'll start kind of moving towards a close here. What advice do you have for somebody like us, right? We're trying to tell golf stories. We like meeting people, talking about the people, courses, brands, businesses out there that are starting up. What advice do you have for someone like us who is kind of early in the game of golf media, golf storytelling?
A couple things. I would, one, pay attention to what is out there, what the landscape is, because first of all, I said this earlier, I find a lot of inspiration and motivation from others. And there's a lot of really good work being done. I have enormous admiration for whether it is the guys at No Laying Up, the guys at Fried Egg, and there are plenty of others, but those two in particular, because they didn't necessarily have, and it is not to take anything away from what Riggs and that unit has done at Barstool, but Barstool, they had some jet fuel. And I love Colt and Drew and the Subpar Pod, and they get great guests, and it's irreverent and it's fun. But they had some jet fuel because they've got Golf Magazine and Golf.com. Look at the landscape. Pay attention to what people are consuming, because one, you may get ideas, and I think the greatest form of flattery is imitation to varying degrees. And the other thing I would tell you is that no is only no. Ask people to come on. People who love golf like to talk to people who love golf. We are, as I said, we are connected through this game. And asking is just that. You're just asking. And you're asking with the best intentions, that you want to advance the game through just a fun, healthy conversation about their own journey in it. So don't put guardrails on what it is that you think you can achieve. Be practical about what your goals are, because goals are not goals unless they're attainable. But those are the two things that I think are on the broad scale of things are really important, because we all need to find motivation in places. And I think there's a lot to be found in this digital platform of golf. And the other part is that reaching out to people in the industry, you never know what kind of conversation you're going to have. And everybody's story is just that. It's their story. And some of the best stories are the stories that you tell, that nobody knows until you tell them. And that's why someone like Ryan French, who started this fledgling little Twitter account with no idea other than, hey, you know what? I know some of these people who are trying to keep the lights on, and they're playing minor league golf all over the place. Ryan French is now one of the most essential voices in golf. He is.
He is.
And how did it start? It started about him telling stories about people nobody knew anything about. So it is not just about playing the hits. It's not just about the Schefflers and the Rorys, who I'm trying to big game hunt with them. It's about everybody. And why are you continuing to pursue this, Brian Campbell, while you're living in some house in Costa Mesa, California with Jake Knapp? How about that story? How about somebody getting the two of them on a podcast together and talking about their living habits and their hygiene? And did you ever look at each other and go, what are we doing? This is never going to happen. And 5 years later, you're both winners on the PGA Tour. There are endless stories to be told. Go find them.
Absolutely. That's what we love doing. And we are inspired by people like you. So thank you for what you've done. And, again, 20 plus years in sales, like, I don't have a problem. It's so much easier to ask somebody to come talk about golf than it is to buy a network switch or, internet, right? Like, hey, do you want to talk about golf? Okay. Like, and we've been, like, if you look at the, 100 plus episodes that we've done now in 2.5 years, like, it's embarrassing and humbling the people like yourself that we've gotten to talk to. So we're going to keep going because we're having so much fun with it. And who knows what doors might open.
I'm glad you are. And anything that I can do to advance you guys, we all need it. And my dad imparted this upon me, that advocacy is life fuel. Without advocates in life, I don't know how you advance in life.
No.
We all need people to lift us up, have belief in us. And some of the most important people that changed my trajectory, in ways, are still a part of my life. They are, and they always will be.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, a couple things as we wrap up. One, we asked everybody for the most memorable golf shot. What is the story of your most memorable golf shot? And somebody
Oh
like
my
you who's
God.
really good, that's hard to think about a memorable one. But
Yeah. Um, Jeez. My most memorable golf shot. I'll tell you why I'm going to tell you this is why it's the most memorable. There's several reasons. So this was back in this was back in the spring of 2012, and I mentioned earlier that I was on the professional staff at Seminole back in the mid 90s, and lucky enough to go back there, maybe once a year, and some of the people who, again, part of my life then, they're still there. Um, but I was playing a round of golf in the spring of 2012 with Bob Ford, who was the golf professional there. He had replaced the guy who was my boss, Jerry Pittman, was also a great player. Um, and so Bob was partnered with Johann Rupert. Johann Rupert is not only a global, corporate, magnet. He's really been the driving force of golf in South Africa for really 50 years. If you look at every player who's gone on to achieve anything in golf, they have gotten the support of Johann Rupert. He's golf's greatest friend in that nation. So anyway, Johann is the CEO of Richmont, which is a conglomerate that owns Peter Millar, who I've had a relationship with for 15 years. And the guy who runs Peter Millar is a guy named Scott Mahoney. So on this particular day, Scott and I played Johann and Bob Ford a closeout match. And we started on the 10th tee, and I had a day. And the most memorable shot was my final birdie of the day. I hold a bunker shot from the front left bunker, short of the eighth green, which is a 245-yard par three, and just hit a really good bunker shot. And it just, started rolling out, melted right into the hole. And that was the sixth and final one to close them out. And to beat those two was incredibly satisfying. And but here's the kicker. That walk in, I couldn't just simply, just be hoisted up as the guy who carried Mahoney, made six birdies, and we won the match. We played the ninth hole, which is a par five at Seminole, and Bob proceeded to make an albatross. So I couldn't even walk the one hole we had to walk them in without him doing something to steal all of the shine off of my punctuating final birdie hold bunker shot because Bob had to be Bob. So he makes a two to a back right hole location. And it's like, really? Really? So that's what I would enter as my most memorable golf shot, then eclipsed by an even more memorable golf shot.
that's incredible. There's always a topper, right? Somebody's trying to
Yes.
outdo you.
Yes.
One other thing we do, and this will wrap us up. We do a quick nine, and I know a lot of these answers I found on Five Club's website, but it's kind of a favorites list. So, favorite course that you've played?
This is the hardest question for me to answer, but I'll go back to Muirfield because I'm going to stop trying to hedge on that. It's my favorite experience in golf, so Muirfield is the answer.
Okay, and I saw you had a couple on the bucket list as well. What's the top on the bucket list?
Well, right now, I've clicked off a couple of them that might have been on that list. Maybe we need to update the website. A couple years ago was Crystal Downs. I've clicked that one off. Um, I would say right now, the couple that I've got at the top are Prairie Dunes in Hutchinson, Kansas, Eastward Ho, which is up in New England, and then as a third, only because I'm hearing amazing things about it, and it's really kind of not even really open yet, is Childress Hall, which is a 36 hole complex that is being built like 30 minutes from the end of civilization in West Texas on the Red River, a dope golf course and a Gil Hanse golf course. Childress Hall, that would be my third.
Interesting. Gonna have to look that one up for sure. What's the best course that no one knows about?
this hat that I'm wearing right now. New golf course in what is called the Sandhills of Georgia. This logo is Fall Line. Fall Line is 36 holes on 8,000 acres near Butler, Georgia. And you're going, I have no idea where that is. Okay, Butler, Georgia is about 45 minutes from Macon, Georgia. This place is extraordinary. Jeff Ogilvy's design team, Mike Cocking, Ashley Mead, and Jeff Ogilvy, OCM, their design firm designed both golf courses. They are amazing, and it's less than a year old. They don't want attention. They're not seeking attention. I'm not looking to get them attention. This Fall Line is the best golf course nobody knows much, if anything, about.
I have heard of it. I've got a friend. I think they did some photography for them. But yeah, that's on my bucket list for sure.
Yep.
Who's in your dream foursome?
My dad, who passed away. It's hard for me to even think about the fact that he's been gone 14 years on July 11th. But my dad, Ben Crenshaw, is the only player that I ever really lived and died with. I admire so many of them, but for whatever reason, starting in 1973 when he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated and I was 6 years old, and he looked like a guy who should be in a Hollywood film right out of Central Casting, Ben would be the third, and Winston Churchill would be the fourth.
Love it. Very nice. All right, this was a tradition that Landman does, I know. But what's your walk-up song to the first tee?
I would say, let me give this the proper pondering here. Van Morrison, Bright Side of the Road.
Like it. I like it. Very nice. All right. Favorite club in the bag?
It's anti-hip hop.
Anti-hip hop. I like it. Favorite club in the bag?
The 7-iron. I think no matter what manufacturer, like if I pulled out like a Hogan Apex or a Wilson Staff or a Ping Eye 2 or a Titleist 690, it doesn't matter. The 7-iron just looks right. Like it's got enough loft that you're like, okay, I can absolutely hit this, but it doesn't have too much loft that you still think you can shape it. There's something about looking at a 7-iron that I think is the most pleasing thing. I think it's the most enjoyable club to hit, 7-iron.
I completely agree. Funny story. So I mentioned we went and played the old course in reverse. So we knew, and we actually went to Karn for a couple days prior to. But I knew, like, all right, I'm going to carry the bag for a number of days. Got this nice Jones bag. I'm going to take half a set. So I take all my even clubs because I had a 2-iron. I was like, I'm going to start there. But I took the 7-iron because I couldn't leave my 7-iron at home. I had to have it.
I can't imagine playing around a golf without it.
I know.
Like, I'll figure out a way. I don't like hitting shots 100%, but I'll figure out a way to hit a shot 90, 80, 70. And with the 7-iron, hell, I'll hit it 60%. You know what I mean? Just choking it down, hitting it 145, flight it down. 7-iron it's so mint.
I love it. It's the most popular answer we get on this one. All right, favorite snack on the course?
You know, I guess it's a snack. I love sunflower seeds. I like sodium. I like salty snacks. And there's something about, my dad chewed tobacco. My dad chewed leaf tobacco until my brother-in-law, who's a physician, was like, "What are you doing?" And he quit cold turkey. But
my dad did as well. The old Red Man.
Did he? Red Man, beech nut.
Yep, he's from up in North Carolina. So yeah.
So anyway, there's something about, sunflower seeds, the flavor that I get from them. The other thing that I would say is, there are certain places you go to, like Seminole. smearing cheese on a cracker is like golf's caviar. There's something about it that, Chicago golf, they just got this big tub of cheese. You take a Ritz cracker and you smear it on that cracker, it's golf caviar. So I would say that the cheese on the cracker would run second to the sunflower seeds.
Very nice. All right. I, like you, am a big golf course logo guy, and I know y'all have the logo club. So I got to ask, what is your favorite golf course logo?
Again, very hard, but I'll simply go back to, if we're going to start the logo club, which we did with a particular logo, which we did, it must mean that I would have to, by default, say it is my favorite. I think the Marion logo is the most regal, most distinguishable. And I was lucky enough this past May to go back there and play the golf course for the first time in a number of years since Gil has gone in and done the work that he did. They added that new irrigation system. And in the month of May, the Scotch broom blooms for about 3 weeks. That's it. So when that golf course is lit up with this golden yellow Scotch broom, which is the base of that logo, and you stand, like in particular, there's a low area that bisects the 16th fairway and the 16th green, and my caddy said, come over here. And he situated me with Scotch broom between me and the wicker basket on the 16th green. The logo came to life.
Wow.
That's the logo. Marion.
Yeah. Obviously, or easily one of the most recognizable. So,
yes.
Very popular answer there as well. All right, final question. Finish this sentence. The best part of golf is?
The people. I owe virtually every important relationship that I have, not that it started there, but that, and I had this conversation literally yesterday with Jay Billis on the show. Jay and I started playing golf together 26 years ago when he would not hit a driver. And for somebody as intelligent as he is, truly one of the dumbest things I've ever seen an intelligent person do, thinking that hitting a 2-iron is easier than finding the dummy club that everybody can hit competently, a driver. But I asked him, why? Why do you love it so much? And he said, because I don't think I would have friends without it. Because we make the choice to devote the most precious commodity we all possess to doing this, which is time. It's the people.
Yeah, that's we like to say golf is people, and yeah, it's the best part of the game. So, Gary, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. I got to tell everybody, go check out fiveclubgolf.com. Watch these guys on the Golf Channel. Listen to their podcast. And maybe soon be grabbing some gear, maybe like that hoodie he's rocking right now.
Absolutely. This hoodie is going to be available very, very soon. Thank you for asking. Thank you for doing what you're doing, which is turning your passion into something that is more than just a hobby. Yeah. That you want this to be a livelihood that you guys can add to the game of golf, which you already are doing. So thank you for having me. It's been a total pleasure.
Yeah, the honor's all over here. So thank you for that. And again, like we say, golf is people, and now we know each other. And I look forward to the day. You're an hour up the road. Maybe we can get together and go play some golf sometime. You can teach us a thing or two.
We will do that. Count on it.
Be a lot of fun. Well, Gary, thank you for being with us on today's episode of the Whole Story Podcast.